A year ago, we rebuilt the tilt cylinders, and yeah, kind of had to do them. The left one was putting out a pretty good stream, and these were just starting to seep. They haven't shot any oil anywhere yet. They've just been seeping. This one's the worst of the two. So, kind of show you how it's done along the way. This is how we're doing the lift cylinders anyway. You don't want to know what those sawhorses will actually hold. That pair has had well over 2 or 3 ton on them before. They ain't tweaked or anything. And they're like 40 years old now. Pop this pin out first. Open the valve and push the rod in. Then we did the other side. The other side's already off. This side's back out because we did the other side. When you don't have exactly what you need to plug holes, those are replaceable end fittings. We took the nut off and shoved a hose and a bolt. That's going to hold for what we're doing, because they end up on the hose on the machine. Caps or plugs, however you want to call them. I actually only have one of these, so I had to make up fittings for the rest. They'll go on the cylinder. Right there's where we're taking it apart. And we should pull both of them off. We only rebuild one at a time, right? We still got to get this one shoved in. Then I'll crack the line, split it, the one line. We'll do the bottom one, which is, sorry, I got a feel. Which is the bottom one here. We got zip ties on both halves because the fittings are identical. Paint them, zip tie them, do something so you know which set goes together. So when we get it all the way in and shut the valve, I'll break it here and put the plug and put the cap on, get it out of the way. Then we'll open the valve again and stretch that all the way out. Which the way we're sitting all the way out comes right to the loader arm. Then we'll close the valve and put the other set of plugs in. Then pull that pin, and then it will be sitting on the bench like this one is. Now, yeah, smarter, not harder, she says. She got smart and got her tray to scrape stuff into instead of putting it on her lap. On these, there's a screw that keeps the gland from turning on the barrel. The gland's probably still going to be kind of a pain in the ass to get broke loose, but I got an adjustable spanner wrench around here somewhere. The bad thing is a regular adjustable spanner wrench with that size pin isn't very heavy.
The great thing is now I'm a blonde, so I have no idea what the hell
So
that
you
is.
got to be careful with it. So you pull the screw, get her loose, going back together as we found on the tilt cylinders a year ago. Getting that lined up might be a little rough with everything new in it, but it still happens. And we'll bring you along for it as we go. It's nice to start with it all the way out and knowing that the barrel is empty, because you don't have a whole bunch of oil. We got it as empty as we could before we got in it, to this position. Is there still some in there? Most likely. But the way these set, there probably isn't more than a couple tablespoons in the barrel. And there can't be more than that much between the piston and the gland. Just because, gravity tends to help. So I'll bring you back when we get to tearing apart. That'll be a little bit. Before you go off on, oh my God, he's got it in a vise, he's going to crush it. It's just there, just enough to hold it. It's not tight, it's loose. On this style cylinder, everybody's a little different, but every cylinder is a little different, but the little half hole there was lined up with that one. That screw was in it. So before we started, it looked like that. Hey, I know 2 outfits in town. They're not that far away we do business with. They'd have these done in, no time, but they cost money too. Takes me a little longer. This happens to be the spanner wrench I have. It came from a tool store that's no longer in town. $15.40, and that was probably 15, 20 years ago. It's not the perfect fit. They're a little small for that, but it works. Clean the holes out with a little screwdriver. That's what the baby screwdriver's there for. Make sure they're clean so you get a good smooth surface to get it in on instead of having it pop out. And since it's not like I got a 10-foot bar on that to turn it, I hold it in place and tap it. This old hammer, that's been in my toolbox for 35, 40 years. Nice thing about this one is it's heavy, and yeah, it's still alive. I should make new ends for it. That's what I used to tap, and I didn't beat, I just tapped. And as soon as it came loose, it should go by hand now. Yeah, sort of. I'll have to tap it a little more, but it moved a little bit there. So if that had even a 2-foot handle on it, I mean, you could pull it, not a problem. But we get that out, that screws into probably about there, maybe a little farther, maybe up to the fitting. And that's got your shaft seals on it, and there's a seal on the outside too. We got to take it off. Then we put not the shaft in the vise. We'll grab it by the end and take an impact to the nut that's on the end of that shaft to get the piston off. Then we can get this off, get it back together, back onto the shaft, put new seals on the piston and put it back on. Then put it all back together. See, I forgot how long-winded that was. Once you get it started, it ain't too bad. But there we have it. The gland and the piston. And all the parts better be in those bags. There's, kind of like what you got here should be inside here, if I remember right. Been a while. Been a year since the last set. They're actually identical sets, but these are bigger because these cylinders are a little bigger. Then when you get that out, I mean, everything here looks pretty good. Yeah, got a little bit of rust around right there. Dirt, whatever there's going to be. And these cylinders are machines from 1984, first time these cylinders have been off. But while it's apart, and I neglected to grab a flashlight, duh, I was going to do that, I had to walk over here anyway. It never hurts to look in there. And you can see out toward this outer end how far the piston goes. Shiny where it goes, not as shiny where it doesn't. But I don't see anything in there. I don't expect to see anything. I mean, these cylinders have been good. They don't bleed off or anything, so looks good. I'll just wipe the oil off there when it goes together just because. And now I got to set that barrel somewhere. Put a rag over the end so it doesn't get anything in it. And take that apart. Never fails. They're usually pretty stuck in there. Most likely Loctited, which you expect. Start out with 3/4 drive, 20-volt impact. Nah, didn't do nothing but vibrate the table. Got out the big guns. And believe it or not, that's been brought out for pulling rod and main bearings out of the engines. Even though it's way overkill, I've been on the end of a 4-foot bar and not budged them loose and laid underneath there for 20 minutes with that and had them all out. But I started here and I didn't have much air pressure. The compressor just shut off, so I should have 120 pounds, give or take. I'm going to give her another try. Sometimes the impact's better than a bar. I ended up with a short socket and a breaker bar and a piece of pipe. Finally got it broke loose. I've had that happen. Loctite a lot of times the impact doesn't want to break it. It just takes brute force to break it. But if it's just something torqued together, usually the impact will knock it loose. So, yeah. That little girl very rarely fails me, but she did this morning. So I didn't bother putting it back on to get the bolt all the way out. I just used the 20-volt impact. It worked. So I got the big old titanium IR out for nothing. Other than I guess it needed to get oiled and run a little bit. It's been a while since we've used it. And if you look at the threads, there's a pretty good section there, about almost an inch of it that was covered with Loctite. You blow the hole out, get the loose Loctite out of it. And I forgot on these, there's no seal in here on the piston on the inside. It's just metal to metal, which is realistically your best seal for most things. All I got to change on it is these pieces here. They're fun. Make sure they're actually in the kit. They should be. And now I can get the gland off and get all the stuff out of the inside of it. Do it. Well, apparently this kit didn't come with the piston pieces, which is fine. They're in good shape. Not an issue there. I don't remember if the tilt cylinders did or not, but it's just everything for the gland. There's replacement seal. Look a little better than that one. That's what gets them, is when the seals go. Then a little bit of crap gets in, and you got, yeah, let me get something better to point with. This would be this piece here. It is a seal, a hard one. And then down here is an O-ring or a quad ring. So this one basically holds all your pressure. This one catches anything that might get past it. And this one's just here to keep shit from getting in. But once it gets in here, and of course that gets old and hard, and that gets old and hard, that's when they leak. And somebody's got to laugh about that as she's cleaning the other rod. Yeah, you got to have a little fun when you're doing stuff. It ain't worth doing it.
You said when I had to pull this one out yesterday that it was a woman's job. Just saying.
And here I am trying to make a professional how-to video, and somebody's got to be a little smart-ass. That's the way that goes, so. Got to have fun doing it or don't do it at all, right? Kits come for more than just one cylinder. They may all have been used on the same machine, but different styles. O-ring, and there's a backer ring. And there happens to be should be these two. Nope, I was right the first time. These two. But these are smaller. Won't fit it. And I'm guessing that's probably for the inside of a different one with a bigger shaft. And there's a quad ring. And plastic spacer, seal, whatever. A lot of times you'll see these on the pistons. But the parts we needed are the ones that are in it. Always make sure and match them up. Because if you try to put one on there that's too small, it's going to stretch it out too much and it won't seal it. You might get it on without breaking it, but it won't seal it. And that is your friend. Some people say, oh, no, God, you can't use Vaseline on that. It'll take the O-rings out. I call bullshit. We've got cylinders around here that I rebuilt 30, 40 years ago. Guess what? They're still working fine. So, no, my thing with Vaseline is if you got to go over anything sharp, I mean, even these threads can screw up an O-ring trying to roll it up there. And I love dental picks for that. Don't get the sharp edge to it, but that kink in it, you can just get it rolled up on there. Once I got them up there, usually I was rolling them up by hand. But you got to be careful. And I Vaseline the hell out of them. I did find an issue on this other end. I just went to wipe this surface down here where it seals, where you can see where the O-ring goes, where the shiny spot is. Where their hole is up here to lock the gland in, right there on the right edge of it, there's a burr. And that O-ring has to pass over that burr to go in. So I'm going to knock the burr off. Probably just use a bearing scraper. I think I can get the bearing scraper in good enough to do that. Right there. Easier than trying to file it and make a mess. And inside this lower part, when I was getting stuff out, I apparently caught a spot in there and made a burr, and you want to make sure all those burrs are gone. If you got a scratch in it, big deal. You don't want a burr. And I didn't catch it until I had almost everything inside it, so I had to be careful. There we go. There's all the parts in the order they come out. Well, in the order they go in, however you want to say it. So next step is I'm going to knock that burr off, slide it in, screw it back together, put the screw back in, and it's ready to go back on. That O-ring isn't why she was leaking, because it was leaking on the other side. But when they put these together, they torque the gland in, and then right here, that little notch, they drill a hole in. It catches the edge of this, and somewhere on the edge of that gland, there's a mating half hole or so, and they drill into, get the cone in the right place, they drill down into there. Then they put the screw in, the screw taps into the lower part. That's what holds it in, and the screw keeps it from turning so it can't come out. There's a burr on that, and that's what just, I'll put a hole in my finger. Yeah. That's what tore that O-ring up on the way out. Sorry, I don't have enough hands to show you the whole process, but hopefully you got the gist of what we did. Parts are fun to get out. Get them out however you can. This was the first one I took out. I took a little tiny chisel and went beside it and got it to pop. On this one, I tried to come from behind it and I couldn't. Instead of the chisel, I used a screwdriver to bend it in. I actually tried the chisel in this direction first, and all it did was just cut a slit in it, which actually worked out all right. Screwdriver bending this in, it didn't scuff up the bore any. On the other one, I scuffed the bore with the chisel, so I had to clean that up. And picture your friend. Get one that you don't want short points if you can help it. Taking stuff out doesn't matter. I got part of the stuff out with this one, get it started, and then get the other one behind it. The other nice thing is usually in the kits they give you directions at least you got an image so you know how it's supposed to be in case things are really screwed up. Still not sure what really happened to this O-ring. It should be the same size as that backer ring, and it is definitely not. It's still the right OD, and it's not like it's a spongy soft like it absorbed a bunch. I don't know, I was almost wondering if maybe when they put it together at the factory, somebody had the wrong O-ring. But that's sealed for, since 1984. Hadn't failed yet. Sure is chewed up though, and that chewing up isn't all from coming out. You can see the texture, it should be smooth. It should be like that, nice and smooth, and it's not. And so it's not from chewing up on the way out. I did find a little rust in there. The other thing, when I put them together, everything gets smeared with plenty of Vaseline. I mean, yeah, you can make a mess with it, but you're not going to overdo it. Vaseline the seal before you try to slide it onto the ram. And Vaseline the piston before you try to put it in here. And the seals on the outside of the gland. And on this one, I got the burr out pretty good, but it just wasn't perfect. I didn't like it. So when I got it almost in, I just put a layer of Vaseline around. Because the Vaseline it'll bridge, it'll help. So I shouldn't have cut the O-ring on the way in. It probably wouldn't have to begin with. but I'd rather have a little extra lube and have it go. So that's this style. And they make some fancy tools for putting the seals in. Little 3-fingered deals that, especially for these things that are hard, because that's pretty stiff. But they grab it like this and go like that, so you can slip it in and let it open. I don't have those. However, we talked about it when we did the tilt cylinders, and I talked about it when we did some other cylinders, and somebody went on Amazon, and we'll have a set of 3 of them coming Thursday. So next time I do one, I'll have them. Maybe I'll never do another one, who knows. But like a lot of things, at least I got the tools to do it. So thanks for watching. I hope this helps somebody, a little bit at least.